You've been lied to about the number 666. For centuries, pastors, theologians, and Hollywood screenwriters have turned this number into a horror movie prop. A barcode on your forehead, a chip in your hand, a satanic tattoo. But what if the real meaning of 666 is far more terrifying than anything Hollywood ever imagined? The number 666 was never meant to scare you, it was meant to warn you. Because when you decode this number the way a first-century reader would have understood it, it doesn't point to some distant future dystopia. It points to a name, a real, historical name. And it reveals a pattern that is repeating right now in ways most believers refuse to see. Beast Mark 666, Decoded. Today, we are going deep into Revelation chapter 13. We are going to decode the number, identify the beast, and expose the system that forces you to choose between economic survival and spiritual allegiance. By the end of this video, you will never read this passage the same way again. Before we can understand the number, we need to understand the beast itself. Revelation 13 opens with a terrifying vision. John, exiled on the island of Patmos, sees a creature rising out of the sea. It has 10 horns, 7 heads, and on each head a blasphemous name. Now, if you read this literally, it sounds like a monster movie. But John's audience understood exactly what he was describing. The sea in ancient Jewish thought represented chaos nations and Gentile empires. A beast rising from the sea meant a world empire rising from the chaos of the nations. The 7 heads, 7 hills. Rome was famously built on 7 hills. The 10 horns, 10 kings or rulers. John was describing the Roman Empire in apocalyptic code. As the prophet Daniel explained centuries earlier, the 4th beast shall be a 4th kingdom on earth, which shall devour the whole earth. Daniel saw Rome coming, and John was living inside what Daniel predicted. But here is where it gets deeper. The beast was not just Rome. Rome was the pattern, and patterns in Revelation always repeat. Verse 2 tells us something chilling. The dragon gave the beast his power, his throne, and great authority. The dragon, identified in Revelation 12 as Satan, delegates his power to a human system. Think about that. Delegated. Satan does not show up with horns and a pitchfork. He shows up wearing a crown and sitting on a throne. He works through political systems, through empires, through structures of power that demand worship. And the people, verse 3 says, worship the beast, saying, who is like the beast, who can wage war against it. They did not worship because they loved it. They worshipped because they feared it. This is critical. The beast does not win hearts. It wins compliance. It creates a system where resistance seems futile, where going along is the only way to survive. The beast does not need your love. It only needs your allegiance. If this truth from Revelation is opening your eyes right now, hit like and subscribe for more biblical wisdom that goes this deep. Because what comes next will change how you understand this entire chapter. The question is not whether the beast existed. It did. The question is whether it stopped existing. Now we arrive at the number itself. Revelation 13:18 says, let the one who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Notice what the text says. It is the number of a man, not a demon, not a computer chip. A man. Nero Caesar, 666. In Hebrew gematria, every letter has a numerical value. When you take the Greek name Neron Caesar, transliterated into Hebrew characters, Nun, Resh, Vav, Nun, Kaf, Samak, Resh, and add the values together, you get exactly 666. This is not conspiracy theory. This is biblical scholarship confirmed by some of the earliest manuscript traditions. In fact, some ancient manuscripts record the number as 616 instead of 666. And when you spell Nero Caesar without the final nun, dropping the Greek ending, you get exactly 616. Both numbers point to the same man, Nero Caesar, Emperor of Rome. Nero was the first emperor to systematically persecute Christians. He burned them alive as torches for his garden parties. He beheaded the Apostle Paul. He is the man behind the number. But this leads us to something even more disturbing. If 666 was just about Nero, why does Revelation place it in the context of the end times? Because Revelation operates on what scholars call dual fulfillment. A prophecy has an immediate historical application and a future eschatological application. The past is the template, and the future is the final fulfillment. Nero was the first beast, but he was not the last. He was the prototype. Consider this pattern. Nero demanded worship as a god. He controlled the economy of the empire. He persecuted anyone who refused to bow. He marked his coins with his image and title. You could not buy or sell without using currency that bore the image of the emperor, currency that proclaimed him as Lord and God. Does that sound familiar? The mark of the beast was not a future technology. It was a present reality for first-century Christians. And John was telling them, I see what you are living through, and I am telling you this pattern will return, larger, more global, and more inescapable. Every generation has seen echoes of this system, but the final fulfillment has not yet arrived. Most people focus on the first beast, but Revelation 13 introduces a second beast in verse 11, and this one is far more dangerous. It rises from the earth. It has two horns like a lamb but speaks like a dragon. It looks like Christ but speaks like Satan. This second beast is the false prophet. Its job is not military conquest. Its job is persuasion. It performs great signs. It makes fire come down from heaven. It deceives the inhabitants of the earth. And then verse 16, it causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their forehead. The mark is not forced by the first beast, but promoted by the second. This is the part most people miss. The mark is not enforced through raw military power alone. It is enforced through religious deception. Someone who looks like a lamb, who sounds spiritual, who performs miracles, convinces the world to comply. As Jesus himself warned, for false Christs and false prophets will arise and perform great signs and wonders, so as to lead astray, if possible, even the elect. The danger is not a monster you can see. It is a counterfeit you cannot distinguish from the real thing. Verse 17 is the verse that haunts every generation. No one can buy or sell unless he has the mark, that is, the name of the beast or the number of its name. Buy-sell mark required. This is economic warfare against the saints. It is not about tattoos or microchips. It is about a system that says, if you do not align with us, you are cut off from commerce. You cannot feed your family. You cannot pay your rent. You cannot participate in society. In Nero's Rome, this was literal. The imperial cult required citizens to burn incense to the emperor and receive a certificate called a libellus. Without it, you were excluded from trade guilds, marketplaces, and legal protections. Christians who refused were not just persecuted spiritually, they were starved economically. The mark was never about technology, it was always about allegiance. 1. Refuse the mark and lose your livelihood. 2. Accept the mark and lose your soul. 3. The choice has always been the same. This is the genius of the beast system. It does not ask you to deny God openly. It asks you to compromise quietly. And that brings us to the most terrifying question of all. Why the right hand and the forehead? Most modern interpretations jump to technology. But John was a Jewish prophet writing to Jewish Christians. He expected them to recognize the reference immediately. In Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 8, God commands Israel regarding his law, you shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. Bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. The hand represents your actions, what you do. The forehead represents your thoughts, what you believe. God's mark was his law written on your hands and mind. The beast's mark is a deliberate counterfeit. Where God says, let my word guide your actions and thoughts, the beast says, let my system guide your actions and thoughts. The mark is not on your body, it is on your allegiance. It is a parody of devotion, a counterfeit covenant. The beast does not just oppose God, it replaces God. It takes the exact structure of divine worship and redirects it toward a human system. This is why it is so dangerous. It does not look like rebellion, it looks like survival. So if Nero was the first fulfillment, what does the future fulfillment look like? System. It looks like a system. Not necessarily one man, though Revelation suggests a final figure, but a system that demands total allegiance in exchange for participation. A system where your economic life depends on your ideological compliance, where dissent is not punished with swords but with exclusion, where you can believe whatever you want as long as you never act on it. Every generation has seen shadows of this. The early church saw it in Rome. Medieval believers saw it in corrupt papal authority. Modern believers see it in secular ideologies that demand total conformity. The specific expression changes. The pattern remains identical. Wherever a system demands your worship, in exchange for survival, the beast is present. As the Apostle John wrote in his first letter, "Children, it is the last hour, and as you have heard that Antichrist is coming, so now many Antichrists have come. Not one Antichrist, many. The spirit of the beast has always been active, and it is building toward its final expression. Here is what most prophecy teachers will not tell you. The mark of the beast is not a surprise event that catches you off guard. It is the culmination of 1,000 small compromises. Small choices, big consequences. Nobody wakes up one morning and decides to worship the beast. They get there gradually, one compromise at a time, one silence at a time, one go along to get along at a time. The mark is not placed on you suddenly. It is chosen through a lifetime of compromise. Revelation 14:9-11 makes the consequence absolutely clear. If anyone worships the beast and its image and receives a mark on his forehead or on his hand, he will drink the wine of God's wrath. This is not symbolic language. This is the most severe warning in all of Scripture. And the reason it is so severe is because the choice is so subtle. You are either marked by God or marked by the beast. There is no neutral ground. There never was. But this leads to the most important truth of all. Revelation does not end with the beast. It ends with the Lamb. Chapter 14 opens with a stunning contrast. John sees the Lamb standing on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000 who had his name and his Father's name written on their foreheads. Where the beast places its mark, God places his name. The seal of God is not a barcode. It is not a church membership card. It is the name of the Father written on your mind, shaping your identity, directing your allegiance. You do not avoid the mark of the beast by decoding prophecy. You avoid it by knowing the Lamb. This is the real message of Revelation 13. It was never primarily about a future dictator or a cashless economy. It was about allegiance. Who owns your worship? Who directs your actions? Who shapes your thinking? They overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they did not love their lives to the death. Blood-lamb testimony, overcome. The early Christians overcame the beast not by decoding its number, but by refusing its allegiance. They chose the Lamb over survival, and that choice echoes through every generation, including yours. The number 666 was never meant to be a mystery for conspiracy theorists. It was a message for persecuted believers who needed to know that God saw their suffering and that the beast had an expiration date. Nero fell. Rome fell. Every beast system in history has fallen, and the final one will fall too. But between now and then, the question remains the same question it has always been. Will you bear the mark of the beast or the seal of the living God? The answer is not found in avoiding some future technology. It is found in daily allegiance to the Lamb who was slain before the foundation of the world. Every day you choose, every compromise matters. Every act of faithfulness counts. Be faithful unto death, and I will give you the crown of life. If you made it this far, comment sealed by the Lamb to show you received this truth, and you know whose name is written on your life. Stay in the Word, stay in the Spirit, and watch what God does.